Every time you say, I'll add that to the project, that's not productivity. That's you doing a job an AI could do in 4 seconds. The problem isn't that you're slow, is that you're the parser between your inbox and your team's task list. And that shouldn't be you. Here's the actual workflow that I'm talking about. An email comes in, you read it, you realize it needs action, or actually maybe 2 actions because customers never send 1 ask emails. So you tab over to ClickUp, create a task, write a title, write a description, go back to the email to reread who it should be assigned to, tab back, add an assignee, set a due date if there was a deadline buried somewhere. Then do that again for the second thing, then realize there was a third thing, and now suddenly it's been 3 days. For a founder running a team, this happens dozens of times a day. And the part that bothers me the most is that you become the bottleneck. The email came to you. Your team needs to know. So now you're the relay between your inbox and their task list. That role should not exist. Today I'm going to show you how to build an AI agent in n8n using Claude Code that watches your email, decides what's actually actionable, pulls out every action item in each email, and creates 1 task per item in ClickUp, including the right person to assign it to, including the deadline if one was mentioned. I'll walk you through the build step by step, and if you want to see what done looks like before we start, here it is. So an email's come in, you can see it says, can you get back to me on the proposal by Friday? Please loop Sarah in on the contract review. She needs to get me the red lines. So this is the email. Let's kick off this workflow and see what happens. It's going through the different steps, and at the end it's created, it looks like a ClickUp task for us. You can see it says we have 2 tasks available. One is to respond to the proposal and one is to loop Sarah in. Isn't that just amazing? Now let's look at how I build this and how you can do this for yourself. Before we build this out, I always like to see what kind of a workflow we are trying to build. And so I first try to map out the different steps that will be required to create a workflow such as this. So this left node here says, Gmail, we have a new email coming in. We then have a noise filter where we skip, say, a no reply email that has come in, right? Because that's important for us. We're only wanting to take action on work-related emails. Then we have an AI, in this case I'm using Claude, to analyze the email. And then once it analyzes, based on certain parameters that we said, we can say, if it's actionable, create ClickUp tasks, and if it's not, just skip the email and do nothing. I'm now inside Claude Code, which is in VS Code. If you want to know how this setup works, please look at some of my previous videos where I teach you how to install, download VS Code, and how to get the Claude Code extension. It's pretty simple, so make sure you follow those steps before you try something. Okay, so I have a prompt already in place. It says, I'm going to build an automation that watches my Gmail inbox and automatically creates tasks in ClickUp for anything that needs action without me having to triage every email manually. When a new email arrives, have Claude read it and decide if it actually requires someone to do something. If it's actionable, Claude should pull out every separate action item and create 1 ClickUp task per item with a clear title, short description, and due date if one was mentioned. If a specific name is mentioned, include them in the task description as well. And all tasks should land in a list called from email. So one of the things I've already done is created a space which says, or which is named as from email. Just for the purposes of this video, you can customize it as per your wishes. So now that this is ready, I'm going to shoot this off. And what Claude Code will try to do now is that since we've connected n8n's MCP server, it's going to connect with n8n and build this workflow out for us. You'll see it's trying to do a health check with n8n. It says n8n is up. It's now going to use the get workflow call to try to access the workflows within n8n and then ultimately build one. In the meanwhile, what I've done is I've created a space within ClickUp which says from email that you can see on the bottom left, and it has a list. So this is where our tasks should appear right now. Of course, you can see that we don't have any tasks, And one other thing you need to do is create an API key from within ClickUp that you need to provide as a credential to your n8n account. How you can create an API key is if you go up to your profile icon on the top right and you hit settings and then go up to ClickUp API in the left panel, click here and you'll see an API token space. And then when you don't have an API key, it'll say something as simple as generate your API key. You click on there, you then copy this API key and you go back to your n8n and connect that API key through your credentials. So you'll see in n8n, this is the connection I've had. Basically what I had to do was just paste the API key over here because n8n does already have a native ClickUp integration. So you just need to find ClickUp and then attach your API key and click on save. It'll test the connection, and if it is ready and good to go, it'll say connection tested successfully. Back to our VS Code, where Claude Code is still working on creating the workflow. It's actually created it already and it's now validating the workflow for us. So we let this run and I'll come back when this is done. Alright, so you can see Claude has finished creating the workflow for us. There's 2 manual steps we need to do, which is one, connect Claude's API credential, and then also create the ClickUp tag. This is the same as the space we saw. It says it needs to have from email. Even if it's not the same, don't worry about it. When we get to the workflow, I'll tell you what that means. And then it says how it works is we'll have a trigger, we build an AI prompt, there'll be an AI agent, we'll parse the response, send it to an if node, see if it's actionable or not, and then create a ClickUp task. Now let's go to n8n and look at the workflow it built for us. I'm inside n8n now and I can see it's built the workflow for us. Let's go through each node step by step to see what we may need to still tweak or change. Hitting up the Gmail account, this is not the one I want to use, so I'll just switch it over to an email that I do want to use. Looking at the building the AI prompt, this is where the instructions reside for the AI agent to know if the email has a certain content, whether it's actionable or not. So the AI agent is going to make that decision based on the prompt we give it. And I see here it's using an Anthropic chat model, which is not what I want. I usually like to use OpenRouter because that enables me to choose whatever AI model I want, whether that be ChatGPT models or Claude models. So I'm going to switch this one out. So you'll see I switched it out with OpenRouter. Once I open it, you'll see I decided to go with GPT 4.1 mini. I think that should be fine. We're then parsing and splitting the response of the AI, and there's an if node here which says is it actionable or not, and you'll see if it's not, it's not going to do anything else. Let's pull up this final node. You'll see that since I have connected ClickUp previously, before making this video, it's already populated my workspace in it. So if you don't see this yet, you just need to click the drop down and select your workspace. Also, the space name won't be selected from the drop down. In this case, I have selected the space to be from email, which is the space that we want to have this create tasks into. I also have selected a folder list just to make things simple. And you'll see this is what it was talking about earlier. The tag names should be from email. We'll see what happens when we run the workflow. But first, let me shoot off an email to this particular email address and then activate the workflow from there. I triggered an email to that particular email address. It says, can you get back to me on the proposal by Friday? Also, please loop Sarah in on the contract review. She needs to get me the red lines. This is the same example that we saw in the intro. Now that we have this, let's shoot this off. I'm going to take it step by step just so you're able to follow along. So I'm only going to run first the Gmail node and let's see what it picked up. So you'll see this is the email address I used, and then this is the output for this particular node. And these are lots of details that it picks up from the email, but the one we're most interested in is the text, which says, can you get back to me? So we know that it's picked up that particular email itself. So now that we've seen this, I'm just going to execute the workflow in one shot to see what happens. So it's built the AI prompt, the AI agent is processing the particular email, It's parsed the response already. It's already identified that it is an actionable email. And if we're lucky, it's already created 2 tasks for us in ClickUp. So let's just move over to ClickUp and see what happened. So I'm in my from email space, and you'll see that 2 tasks have already been created. One is to respond to the proposal. The other is to loop Sarah in on the contract review. These are the tags that we mentioned in our node in the n8n workflow. This one also has a due date set up, which is for Friday. And that's coming from this particular piece, right? So it picked up that due date as well. If we had Sarah come in our organization, which I currently do not have, it would also have assigned the assignee to Sarah in this case. Now let's look at an example where if you have an email coming in that doesn't need to be acted upon, does the workflow handle that correctly? So I want to test this out by using a generic email that I made up. So this is just a weekly roundup of the top AI tools making waves this week. You'll see it's a no reply sort of email, which is just a summary of, whatever newsletter you might be subscribed to. And this email has come into our inbox. And since it has, let's trigger the workflow and see what happens. Okay, so it's read the email, sending it to the AI agent, and you'll see it parsed the response, and with the is actionable field, it says, no, it's not actionable. So if I open this up, it says the actionable field is false. So it correctly identified that this email did not need to be acted upon, and hence there was no action created in ClickUp. So your workflow will not interfere with any other emails that you may be receiving. And to refine this further, you can even give it more custom instructions. By it, I mean the AI agent, where you can refine what type of emails it should need to look for. Here's the thing I didn't fully appreciate before I built this. Most automation tools treat email like a data stream, keywords in, tasks out. And that kind of works until you realize that the real work was never sending the email to a task manager. The real work was reading it. Clients don't write structured requests. They write 2 paragraphs with 3 implied asks, a deadline mentioned in passing, and someone's name dropped halfway through. A keyword trigger doesn't catch that. You do, and that's why you are the bottleneck. What's actually happening in this workflow is that Claude is doing the job you were doing. It's reading for intent, not just keywords. It's pulling out every ask, not just the first one. It's noticing that Friday means a due date and that Sarah means an assignee. And once you understand that the hard part of email management was never the clicking, it was the reading, you start to see where this logic applies. Any place in your business where a human is sitting between an input and a structured output, translating natural language into action items, that's a candidate for this exact pattern. And once you understand that the hard part of email management was never the clicking, it was the reading, you start to see where else this logic applies. Any place in your business where a human is sitting between an input and a structured output, translating natural language into action items, that's a candidate for this exact pattern. You just watched an email with 2 action items turn into 2 ClickUp tasks with the right deadline in under 60 seconds. No tab switching, no copy paste, no I'll add that later that becomes never. What you built today is more than a task automation. It's the first version of something that can get smarter. More inboxes, more destinations, more logic. But this version alone is enough to stop being the relay between your email and your team's work. If this was useful, subscribe. I put out 1 video a week on automations built exactly like this one for businesses that are tired of doing by hand what a workflow can do in seconds. And if you know someone whose morning starts with 45 minutes of email triage, send them this. It'll be the most useful thing in their inbox all week. Thank you. Take care.